pasar ahí.
Bueno, buenas tardes para todos. Bienvenidos a esta charla que tenemos con la empresa SoftServe. Ofrecemos disculpas por el retraso. Agradecemos a Juan Fernando Tobón, que es el manager del Centro de Aceleración de Talento de la compañía aquí en Colombia, que muy amablemente se ofreció a darnos una pequeña charla y a traer al ingeniero Balodimir Blubleski, quien hablará en la segunda parte y tendrá su intervención. Entonces, no siento más, le damos la palabra a Juan Fernando.
Gracias, Sebastián. Muchas gracias. Buenas tardes. En primer lugar, agradecer por el espacio al profesor Giovanni por tenernos acá hoy como invitados para presentar esta pequeña charla hacia ustedes. En primer lugar, les vamos a hacer una pequeña introducción a la compañía. Voy a tratar de no demorarme mucho para poderle dar la palabra a Balodimir, que podamos interactuar bastante con él. Bueno, entonces, ¿quién es SoftServe? SoftServe es una compañía americana con origen ucraniano. Somos una compañía que viene creciendo a razón del 30% año tras año. Llevamos 29 años en el mercado. Tenemos alrededor de 13.500 empleados alrededor del mundo. En este momento estamos operando en Colombia desde mediados de marzo. Ya alcanzamos más o menos los 130 empleados en Colombia, entonces eso es pues, un crecimiento un poquito acelerado, dadas como las circunstancias y dadas las especificidades del mercado hoy en día. Somos una compañía centrada en el empleado, somos una compañía que siempre está presente para cada uno de los empleados, somos una compañía muy people oriented y nos gusta que todas las personas que estén dentro de SoftServe tengan un work-life balance importante, ¿sí? Nosotros tenemos clientes, somos una compañía de servicios, nosotros una compañía de producto, tenemos clientes con los que tenemos más de 900 proyectos en este momento. Pasamos de tener clientes como startups, independent software vendors, a también tener clientes que hacen parte del Fortune 500 en el mundo. Entonces, nos podemos mover por todas estas empresas fácilmente y responder a cada una de las necesidades que ellos tienen. Bueno, como les decía, tenemos un Net Promoter Score del 81%, eso en términos de empleabilidad es algo muy positivo para las compañías. ¿Dónde estamos en este momento? Tenemos presencia en Ucrania, en Rumania, en Polonia, Bulgaria, Canadá, Estados Unidos y en Latinoamérica. Empezamos operaciones este año en México, Colombia y Chile. Algo muy positivo e importante de SoftServe es que SoftServe fue fundado por profesores universitarios. Entonces, por eso SoftServe tiene esa necesidad y ese gusto de acercarse a la academia, precisamente por el origen de la compañía. Es una compañía fundada por profesores universitarios, entonces para nosotros es demasiado importante estos espacios, contar con estas charlas dentro de las universidades, acercarnos a la comunidad docente, estudiantil, es demasiado importante para nosotros. Dentro de SoftServe tenemos SoftServe University, es una universidad corporativa, como Sebas les dijo hace un momento, luego parte del Centro de Aceleración de Talento, y el cual a su vez incluye el IT Academy. El IT Academy comenzó en el 2006, nos dimos cuenta que es importante para nosotros formar y ayudar a formar los profesionales en el ecosistema, ¿sí? Entonces, tenemos diferentes soluciones dentro del IT Academy para ofrecerle a todos los estudiantes que llegan a nosotros, o sea, cursos de fundamentos, crash courses, maratons, internships. Tenemos varias soluciones de aprendizaje para cada uno de las personas que llegan, a cada uno de los estudiantes que llegan a SoftServe. Estas son algunas de las IT Academy Directions que nosotros podemos cubrir, no voy a parar en ellas, ya ustedes las conocen mucho mejor que yo con total seguridad porque ustedes están estudiando en este momento. También, solo para resaltar estos temas, estos porcentajes tan importantes dentro de la compañía,
y cómo el IT Academy aporta a todo el personal o a llenar todas las vacantes que nosotros tenemos en este momento, que siempre hemos tenido. 30% de todos los empleados de SoftServe en este momento han sido estudiantes de la IT Academy. El 73% de los trainees que hacen parte de los internships de la IT Academy entran a la compañía. El 40% de los desarrolladores que tenemos en SoftServe han hecho parte de la IT Academy. Y bueno, y el 59% de todos los QC engineers que hay en SoftServe también han sido parte de IT Academy. Entonces, esto solamente como para resaltarlo. Aquí tenemos unos links interesantes para ustedes, los links de las vacantes que tenemos en este momento en Colombia y el link de la inscripción al curso que está abierto en este momento. Es un curso en DevOps de la IT Academy que tenemos planeado comenzar en el mes de octubre. Entonces, no siendo más, yo le voy a dar paso ya a Balodimir. Muchas gracias. Igual cualquier duda, el link también lo pueden encontrar con Sebastián o con el profe Giovanni también. Listo, muchas gracias. Calor.
Hopefully it will work. Pero digo es diapositiva. Es la misma. One, two. It doesn't work. Oh, it's switched off. Yeah, muchas gracias. But it doesn't work, no? You turn on? Gracias. And how to open this? Where is my phone?
The pointer.
Mm-hmm.
This microphone.
Okay. It works.
So thank you so much, Juan Fernando. And next, we will have the presentation of the engineer Balodimir Blubleski. He is the Azure DevOps technical leader of SoftServe. He has experience in system administration and CIO.
I will cover it.
TV and radio company, and he has a lot of experience in cloud computing, particularly in Amazon Web Service, 3.5 years of experience, Google Cloud Platforms, 2 years, and 3 years in Azure. He works also in infrastructure as a code in Terraform, in CI/CD schemes and with Jenkins, TeamCity, and Azure DevOps. And he has worked in enterprise, healthcare, and mining business domain. So, Mr. Blubleski, the audience is yours. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing today?
Could you speak to this?
This one? Okay. Can you hear me better? Do you speak English? All of you? Right? Okay. So I did a lot of talks, but most of them were like for technical people, but this is kind of new experience for me, so I will appreciate your feedback at the end of the session. And yeah, so today we have a topic, how to start a career as DevOps engineer, and our agenda looks like I will tell a bit about my story. We will cover what is not DevOps, what is DevOps, benefits being DevOps engineers. I will provide you some recommendation. At the end of the session, we will have a Q&A. But if you have something to ask, or you can interrupt any time, because at the end of the session, you can miss it. So I think that some of this stuff was covered by my colleague, but I started my career like a system administrator, then I've been like CIO in TV and radio company. Then I decided to change my direction. I went to SoftServe. I joined to SoftServe, and I started like a junior DevOps engineer, and now I'm technical and team lead for the multinational team and international project. Yeah, we have people in my team in Canada, in Europe, and currently we are hiring in LATAM. It's Mexico, it's Colombia, and it's Chile. Also, I have experience in major clouds, in other CI/CD tools, and so on. Do you know what is DevOps? Who knows what is that? Maybe you can try to guess. Any thoughts? No? Okay. So DevOps, this is like acronym from development and operations. In real life, DevOps looks like this picture. So when you connect development and operation, you can have some kind of this situation. It doesn't work as expected. And developers usually said that it works on my local machine, why it doesn't work on the production environment. So let's speak what is not DevOps. DevOps is not profession. Usually you see a lot of vacancies now like DevOps. But DevOps, it can be like a software developer, it can be a system administrator, it can be architect, all of them can follow DevOps. But it doesn't matter that this is like a DevOps person. It's not a course or degree. You don't learn it in the university or school. It's not a system administrator. It's not a developer. DevOps, it's a culture. It's a culture, something in between of development and operation. So you follow some approach how to collaborate between development and operation, how to automate all this stuff. Is it too quick for you? If not, you just can ask me to be slower. Okay. So DevOps, it's development and operation collaborations. It's about deployments, because previously developers used to use their local machine. So you write your code, you compile it, you test it, you see that it doesn't work, so you need to change it, and you need to spend time again to compile it, to test it, and so on. So DevOps practices come up with deployments, and now you can have like a separate environment, just deploy your code to test it, and meantime it's compiling, building, deploying. You're doing your actual coding, and you don't spend time for these activities. So DevOps treat infrastructure as a code. Previously, you need to do everything manually, so you create it from the UI or some other command lines, etc. Now you just write your code, execute against some clouds or on-premise devices, and you have infrastructure in place. And DevOps, it's about using automation. When I say automation, it's automation everywhere. So you automate everything what is possible with some kind of tools, or if you don't have tools, you wrote custom code. And this is kind of infinity process for DevOps. You plan something, you build something, you integrate it, deploy, operate, it's monitoring, it's checking, changing, you have feedback, and you do the same process. And all the steps you can service all of different products on the market. So my personal experience at SoftServe, now, yeah, I'm DevOps tech lead, and I tried myself in pre-sale and discovery. What is that? So if you're a DevOps guy, you can start the project from the beginning. This is like a pre-sale or discovery. Customer come to you. You can be involved in the pre-sale activities just to build some kind of solution, then have a discovery. So you investigate what customer needs, what do they have, and propose something for them. So you can have, yeah, I have a lot of experience in clouds due to the different projects at SoftServe, many interesting Greenfield and Brownfield projects. Do you know what is Greenfield or Brownfield projects? So Greenfield project, this is from the scratch, and Brownfield, this is something existing and you need to change it or deploy somewhere else. Also some complex migration from on-premise to clouds and between different clouds. And if you work as a DevOps guy for the international companies, you will have for sure some kind of business trips to different continents and countries, and you can try yourself in different business domains, whatever you prefer. It can be like enterprise or SV. You see this, Juan mentioned, it's like different companies who are doing software, and they can extend their teams with like vendor companies. You can try some kind of healthcare, banking, whatever you prefer. And let's talk maybe about the benefits of being DevOps engineers. As I mentioned, you are involved in the project from the beginning till the end of the actual implementation. So it can be starting from pre-sale, if you are interested, or you just implement the solution. And you are responsible for everything from the scratch. So you are creating infrastructure, you're automating everything, you are collaborating with the teams, you are building solution for them just to be able to run this project. So also you have a lot of communication with the stakeholders. You can collaborate with the team, you can collaborate with product owners, you can collaborate sometimes with business people if you provide some kind of solution or you have an idea. Sometimes you need to state it to the business and advocate it and explain them why do you need it. And you have ability to grow. You can grow up to solution architect and above if you're interested. And recommendation, first thing first, learn and practice English. I would say this is one of the most important pillars because all the communication are in English, all the documentation is in English. So I think in Spanish you have a lot of documentation, but everything fresh and new is in English, and if you know it, if you follow it, if you read it, so you're up to date. And I would suggest you to start, if you are interested in DevOps, to start with some kind of clouds. It can be anything from 3 major clouds. It can be Alibaba as well, if you're oriented to Chinese market, for instance, yeah. But personally, I recommend Azure because I see a high demand now, and there are not so many good experts in this area. But with AWS, a lot of them, I'm not saying that AWS it's not interesting, right? But Azure has higher demand now. Yeah. And also programming. Very often people thinking that DevOps, this is something kind of system administration because you are creating some kind of CI/CD processes for deployment, you are creating infrastructure, and you don't think about programming. Yes, DevOps is mostly like declarative programming because you declare states for the infrastructure, the code, what do you want, and all the frameworks, they orchestrate infrastructure. But I would suggest you to learn programming, some kind of basics OOP, and some kind of scripting or programming languages. My personal recommendation is Python or Bash, because this is kind of cross-platforming, and you can cover a lot of things with it. And please, every time when you start learning something, make a deep dive into that. You shouldn't follow some kind of Stack Overflow approach. When you found solution, you just implement, but at the end of the day, you have no idea how it works. And if you need to explain to someone or you need to change something, you don't have idea how to do that. So every time, just spend some time reading documentation. If you see that something is new for you, you need to read more, to test more, to investigate more. Like example, if you start learning some cloud, it's better to start from the basic. For instance, what is zones and region, how it's organized, how networks works. And networks, this is a very important topic as well, because all of the communication between services, between application, databases, this is like a network layer, right? You have a lot of protocols, you have a lot of stuff around, and you need to understand how it works. Then, at the end of the day, once you have this understanding, you can build solution. If you don't have that, you can make a mistake, and in the long-term perspective, your solution can fail. Yeah, questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Balodimir. It's more easy, more straightforward to pronounce your
Yeah.
name than your last name. Okay, do we have any question in the audience? Yes?
It doesn't work. Yeah.
It's important.
It's
for
a
the
it's a
streaming.
fake.
It's for the streaming. So.
Oh, sorry, guys.
La primera pregunta es, ¿cuál es el idioma nativo de Balodimir? Porque, digamos, estamos invitando a aprender inglés, pero él es un ejemplo de eso. Y aquí tengo otras preguntas.
The first question is, what is your native language? Because, of course, we have a lot of Spanish-spoken people here, so, well, they have this doubt.
My native language is Ukrainian. Yep.
Say hello in Ukrainian.
Привіт. It's like привіт, it's hello, or добрий день, it's like buenas tardes, I believe. Good day, like.
Okay, we have another question here. Well, you mentioned that you prefer to use Python as a programming language, right? Why Python?
Because you don't need to compile it, because it's simple to learn, and it's a scripting language, so you can implement something which you can cover with the existing tools. So it can be Bash as well. So I know Bash as well.
Okay, for example, C++, JavaScript, but you think about the other languages that, well, are very used in the media?
I think it's, yeah, it doesn't work. Low battery.
Can you hear us? No? At all?
Low battery.
No, low battery.
Yeah.
I can think now?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? So I would say C++, for instance, it's mostly about some application. Python, this is one of the best languages for DevOps. You don't need to compile it. It's simple. You can write code very quickly. You can run it, debug it, and use it. This is kind of recommendation, but you can try to use Golang as well. You can try to use PowerShell. You can try to use Bash, whatever works for you.
Excuse me. Do we have more questions in the audience?
Yes, I do. I was talking with my friend, and he asked me to ask you,
Okay.
what can be done if he already knows all the technologies you just mentioned, but he doesn't have the language?
I think you need to start learning language, some kind of them, because I would say you can start without language, right? You can use existing tools, and you can have something declarative, like YAML, for instance. A lot of CI/CD tools, they use YAML, and you just need to state what you prefer. With imperative programming, with the C++, it's imperative programming. You describe how to achieve something, right? In declarative programming, you just declare the state, what you prefer. So there are a lot of tools like Jenkins, for instance. I believe you heard about that. Or TeamCity, or Azure DevOps, or any other tools. They have a pretty simple declarative language, and you just declare states. For instance, I need to have this job, and it has a set of parameters. Once you run it, you achieve it. It's much more simple. Or you are writing infrastructure as a code with Terraform. It's a HashiCorp language, STL, and you state as well, like this kind of resource, it has this, that, and that. Then you just run it, and you achieve what you want. But if you want to write something custom, then you need to have some kind of OP language, object-oriented language.
So it's not an option to opt without the language.
You can start without, but it's better to learn it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
My case is just the contrary. I have the language, but I don't have the skills. I don't have this knowledge of the technologies.
But
I have a certain approach. I know how to code. I know how to use certain things, but I don't have a deep knowledge about it.
That's why you need to apply to IT Academy.
That's why
You can apply to IT Academy.
okay.
If you heard about IT Academy, so we have a course for DevOps guys. And it looks like I don't speak Spanish, so I don't understand what Juan explained you, to be honest. But we have like, I explained to my colleague that we have kind of teacher and lecturer who are covering some courses like basics, like OP, network stuff, and things around. And we have technical experts who provide you some kind of tasks. And this is kind of dummy project. So you collaborate with your teammates as a real team, and you are trying to implement this project from the scratch to the actual deployment. And this is kind of experience. Other case can be you can apply as a junior or apprentice into other companies and to get the skills, because if you, like a good expression, if you don't use it, you lose it. If you have theoretical knowledge and you don't use them, it's useless because sometimes you lost it, right? If you know English but you don't practice it on a daily basis, you lose it, right? The same here. If you have some kind of project, you just improving your skills and you gaining experience. Experience matters. This is the most valuable thing because you know how to handle problems. You can have a good understanding of technologies. You can be a cool programmer. But if you don't have experience solving problems, it's useless for you because you don't know how to do that. And the more you practice, the more problem you face with, the more problem you fix by yourself, not Googling like a Stack Overflow and just trying to debug it to understand the reason. Sometimes you need to go to the code and to understand how this tool works. Sometimes errors are not obvious, and you don't have enough information in the internet, in the communities to understand the root cause. But software can be like open source, and you see the actual code in GitHub. You can go there, you can write like, you can read the errors and these statements, if, else, blah, 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 and understand what is the root cause. And why do you need to know OP language? As I mentioned, DevOps guys is responsible for the entire product. Imagine you have an application. It works with Elasticsearch, for instance, right? If you deploy Elasticsearch somewhere in on-prem, it works one way. But if you migrate to the cloud and you have Elasticsearch as a service, for instance, in AWS, it works a bit different way. So you need to change your code. It can be Ruby, it can be C#, it can be anything, right? But you need to adjust this code for these purposes of the cloud to be able to execute this code in the cloud. That's why you need to understand how OP works and explain to developers to improve their code. Or sometimes I had it in my past experience when I did a pull request to the application to fix this code because it throws me error in the cloud. So for me, it was much more easier to fix Ruby code instead of pinging developers who has their feature, their bug, their hot fixes, blah, blah, blah. Does it answer your question?
Yes, I think it does.
Nice. Thank you.
Okay, you have an open invitation to enroll with the Academy, right?
Yeah.
So, do we have another question in the audience?
Yeah, you've been second. You can.
My question is, how important is for a telecommunications engineer, for example, in my case, I'm a telecommunications engineer, and I am a graduate of this institution, but when I was a student, I didn't see anything about development.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last topic, you said that a DevOps needs to know about networks or about protocols. but how important is for a telecommunications engineer in the field of the telecommunications knows about development and software development, and in the other case, for the other way, for a software developer, for a system engineer knows about telecommunications.
Okay.
Well, I maybe I can repeat the question for the people online, right?
Okay.
Or do you think it was clear? Okay. I will summarize the question. How important is for telecommunication engineer to learn about development? And in the other hand, how important is for software engineers to learn about telecommunications, right?
And the university depends on, and there is courses about development.
Okay. This question is related about the curriculum in engineers.
Okay, I'll try to answer. Okay, so if you say telecommunication, you mean mostly about networks or something specific?
Yeah, networks.
Okay, I would say the more technologies you know, the more cool guy you are, right? So if you prefer to work with Cisco and networks, honestly, I don't think you need to have like development skills, but if you orchestrate something with the code, honestly, I don't follow networks now. It's mostly software-defined networks in the cloud. But I used to work with Cisco. I shared with the colleagues in my past, and I didn't have development that time, right? So it depends on the area what you will cover. If you work with networks and you do it like with the CLI, like with Cisco, you have Cisco iOS. Don't mix it with Apple iOS. So you're just running some commands and you have a kind of script, right? Because you need to show config, you need to configure some VLANs, you need to configure some route tables, some RP tables, etc. Then you need to save this config. You need to upload to TFTP server, for instance. This is kind of programming already because you are writing this code, but this is kind of declarative programming as well, right? And if it's all what you are going to do, I don't think you need to have a deep development skills. But if you prefer to work in DevOps or software engineering, you need to have a good background because you can work even without background with the small basic understanding. But if you want to grow, there is a career path in all the occupations, right? If you start like a waiter, you can be like administrative director in restaurant, right? You can start like a DevOps guy, you can be solution architect, or you can be a team lead, you can be whatever you prefer. And all the next steps, they gonna need you to have wider understanding of technologies and experience. If you want to build solutions, you need to understand how network works, right?
Necessary.
Yeah, this is necessary. I would say this is the basic pillars for everything computer science related, computer systems related, clouds related. Everything works through the networks. You have your cell phone, you have networks. You have wired networks, you have wireless networks. Everything works through that. Protocols, yeah.
So we have another question in the audience.
Which would you say that are the main skills that a person needs to develop, both technical and non-technical skills, to start a career in this area?
Well, I'll repeat the question. What are the main skills, technically and non-technically talking about, that an engineer required to get involved in DevOps world?
Got it. So when you start your career, you need to be oriented to the hard skills. Like it should be technical part, it should be problem solving and technical thinking, right, to solve this problem. But when you grow up like a technical expert, you need to develop your soft skills. because at the end of the day, everyone wants to be a lead position or architect position or senior position, right? Then you need to have a soft skill, like communication, problem solving between teammates and customer and other stakeholders, because as I mentioned a few slides ago, you will have a lot of collaboration with different people. Sometimes you need to advocate your solution and to explain them why it works better than they propose. So you need to have good soft skills. But to build this solution and sell it to the customer or your team or your teammates or company, you need to have a solid hard skills from the beginning to understand how the platform works, because you can fail, right? If you didn't build it the proper way, because you didn't expect that this solution can work this way instead of your, I don't know, pretend to think it works. Does it answer your question? Thank you.
Okay, another question in the audience. You have one.
How long do you need to become
An expert.
a DevOps engineer?
How much time do you need to become a DevOps engineer?
It depends on the level and maturity, right? If you're just started, for instance, with IT Academy, I don't know for sure here, but usually we have like 4 months education, then you have a probation period. It can be 3-4 months. And after that, if you perform good, you can be a junior. But later, it depends on you. So there are a set of criteria you need to pass to be promoted. But I would say it depends on personality and experience. Sometimes people can gain a huge experience for a short period of time because they perform good, they solve different problems, they can cover more than others, and they can have much more experience, and they can be, technically, they can be like a senior people, right? And other people, they can be slow, then can be overwhelmed with something. For them, it can take more time. It depends on people.
And what do you mean with green and brownfield projects?
Greenfield project, when you introduce something from the scratch. For instance, you have an idea and you want to implement it, right? Like a startup.
Some examples.
For instance, you have an idea to create some application for the food delivery. It doesn't exist now, right? Brownfield project, this is kind of existing thing, and you need to migrate it from one cloud to another, for instance.
Okay.
This is on the high level.
Another
It has
question
more.
in the audience. Okay, we have an online question here from Andres Orozco, and he say that what other programming languages do you recommend other than the ones that you mentioned before?
It's a tricky question. It depends on, I don't know, your preference. It can be Ruby. You can see what is the high demand for now. If you want to develop some application, then you can check high demand languages and learn them to apply for some job and so on. But if we are talking about like a pure DevOps or cloud engineer, it's a declarative languages like YAML, like HashiCorp language, like JSON. It's not like a language, but anyway, you write some configuration, so you need to learn it as well.
So could you say that Python is mandatory right now? Like a mandatory?
Based on the demand and request from the different customers, it's nice to have. I wouldn't say it's mandatory because there are a lot of projects who are not asking for that, but this is nice to have, more than nice to have, I would say.
Okay. I have another question. I think the final question regarding the what DevOps is. You explain what DevOps is. However, it is not clear for me. I'm not an expert in such topic. it's not clear what are the main benefits or the main advantages to use DevOps in a company, on a software development company.
It saves money, it automates the process, it saves time, you have quicker response, and you can solve problems and release your software much more quick. So cost saving and time.
Okay. If we have not more questions for Mr. Blubleski, okay. Thank you very much. Very welcome here in Colombia.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Bien, tenemos dos preguntas para Juan Fernando. La primera es de también Orozco. ¿Cuánto cuesta un curso de la academia?
Ok,
La primera pregunta. Y la
Listo.
segunda pregunta que nos hicieron, ¿quién nos hizo la segunda pregunta? El mismo, que si es presencial o virtual.
Listo. Los cursos de la IT Academy que se ofrecen aquí en Colombia, que se van a ofrecer, que se ofrecen en todo el mundo, no tienen costo. Son cursos sin ningún tipo de costo. Hay unas pruebas de entrada, unas pruebas técnicas, unas pruebas de inglés, dependiendo de los requisitos que se tengan para el curso, pero de ninguna manera hay ningún costo asociado al curso. Y pues la idea es que estamos en un mundo globalizado, ahora remoto, pues la gran mayoría de las clases pues se brindarán de manera remota para también pues como ser un poquito más inclusivos con las personas que están por fuera del área metropolitana de Medellín. Sin embargo, pues también en algún momento podríamos llegar a tener las clases de manera presencial, si así también creo que todo el grupo estuviera dispuesto a hacerlo.
Perfecto, Juan Fernando, muchas gracias a las personas del público y a los que nos acompañaron a través de YouTube. Feliz día para todos.
Muchas gracias.